throw in Carlos Mayo, Spain, Isaac Kameli of Belgium, and you have one heck of a race here for the senior men. 9.6 kilometers then. As I said, one short lap and 6 long laps. They should have spread out a little bit by the time they get up to the top of the big hill and head to the Manaria Castle for the first time. But how will Ingebrigtsen handle this run? Remember, it's still 6 to run, 3 to score for the is an option for the teams. 3 to score, that's all. Ingebrigtsen here knows that he's got a target on his back, Hannah, as he goes into every race now. And he is so confident, didn't he? Wasn't he? He voted very early about himself being a winner.
A poll on the European Athletics Instagram. European Athletics doing a lot of good work on their social media. They put a poll: who is going to win the senior men's cross country? First vote, Jakob Ingebrigtsen voting for himself. He also voted for Ingeborg Usgaard, who took silver in the women's race, and he voted for Grovdal as well. She won, so he's kind of on the money. He knows what he's talking about. But I love that about him. There is a confidence. It's not unfounded. And why shy away from it? Why waste time, entertaining other scenarios if you truly think you can win? And you've shown over the years that you deserve that. You deserve the prize of being the favourite. I think Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he's always welcomed that pressure, hasn't he? So
this could well be the race of the day. The reigning champion Jakob Ingebrigtsen is up there in the top half dozen or so. Last year's silver medalist Aras Kaya, by the way, of Turkey, was a late pull-out. If you think about Ingebrigtsen, Kripa, Katir, Keres, Emil Keres, the British champion, he could be up there in the top half dozen or so. He's looking supreme these days, improving all the time, is Keres. Can he live with those big names, though, the big track names, more established names like Kripa and Katir? Ingebrigtsen there in the dark blue to the right of that leading group with big Norway on his chest, easy to spot. He's a massive fella, actually. He's got legs like a bull, I always think, Ingebrigtsen, as they negotiate this first small lap, Hannah. He's really powerfully built.
It's an opportunity for another nation here to stamp their claim on that team gold.
Chiappinelli of Italy, Johannes Chiappinelli, who's a steeplechaser. He was an 8:24 steeplechaser. He leads at the moment as they go into the hill for the second time, but this is a long lap this time. Remember, one short lap, 6 long laps of 1,440 metres, the long laps. So he's giving himself a nice early look at the big hill. And Ingebrigtsen, well, he's just tucked in there. Back in about 12th place at the moment. I think 12th or 14th place. He'll bide his time. I think the trouble is with Ingebrigtsen, he always comes through, doesn't he? You know, he very often starts off looking very relaxed in his races, and then when he chooses, he makes his move. Almost Mo Farah style in a way, because Mo used to do that in 5,000, 10,000, sit towards the back, and then move through at the business end of the race.
Yeah, I did just see Philip Ingebrigtsen come through, so he is there. But when I look at Mohamed Katir and Carlos Mayo, the two Spanish athletes, they're further back with Ingebrigtsen, and kind of feel, I don't know whether Yamani Burhan Cripper kind of thinks, well, why not just give myself an advantage, get out there and make myself the man to chase down. But you know, Yamani Burhan Cripper, he's pushing to the fore now. He's been very vocal about he'd love to take this gold medal here in front of a home crowd, but it makes me know, you know, I think following someone like Jakob Ingebrigtsen, that's not a bad race plan at all, because he does always work his way up to the front.
Well, you could see Ingebrigtsen there back in about 15th place. Cripper is an interesting athlete. He's improving all the time. Back in February, I had the privilege of commentating on the Naples half marathon, and Cripper set an Italian record, went under 60 minutes for the first time, and it was a big win, very powerful, smart race he ran there. So he comes into this with enormous strength, and he's got all the credentials. You know, he's run 3:35 for 1,500 metres. He's a 3:52 miler. He's got great speed. He's got enormous strength. And at the moment, if he, Jakob's moving through. Look, he was back in the about 12th or 14th, and I wonder whether or not he recognised that Cripper was pushing hard at the front, and so wanted to cover what might have otherwise become a break in a way. Ingebrigtsen, they're back in about 9th place at the moment. But it's Yapinelli along with Cripper 1 and 2, and the crowds will be roaring them on. We can't hear the crowds here in our commentary box, but you can bet it's loud there in many sections. Zogliani is there to the right of pictures as well. The Italians enjoying this.
That's a good sight for the home crowd. Italian men spread across the front of this field. One long lap down, 5 to go. It is really early to be pushing at the front like that. I think that's risky, and it could be problematic later on. Emile Carrès, one of the front runners for the Great Britain Northern Ireland team, just coming through though. Great Britain team, Mohamed will be incredibly excited. Silver medal for his brother in the under-23 race. He's the second British athlete at the moment, but they've got a big effort to do to get into those team medals. Spaniards packing well. Carlos Mayo has kind of followed through on Ingebrigtsen's coattail, not all the way. Mohamed Katir, first European cross-country for him. We know he's good on the track, but it'll be interesting to see how he handles a cross-country race.
Yeah, Katir there in the red vest, back in about 10th place with a black headband. Don't know how he'll go here, Katir. He runs very much up on his toes. He's a beautiful looking track runner, very relaxed, light on his feet, but cross-country, you can get away with that, but you still need to be a powerful runner, and Katir doesn't ooze power, he oozes smoothness. Mind you, Cripper here, looking lovely, isn't he? Really good cadence, and that's a great shot. I love these side-on shots when you get a really good perspective on just how fast they're moving. I mean, he is travelling, this fella.
Cripper knows his way around a cross-country course. He's been another athlete up training in E10 in Kenya. Oh, we spoke about the hills yesterday. I thought, well, if you've been training there with those hills, you'd encounter a hill like that on pretty much every run up in E10. The town is up on a hill. Every run you do, you have to drop down, turn around, and battle your way back up. I think that's pretty decent preparation for a course like this. And Cripper's very familiar with this course. He did say to me that this could favour a mountain runner. He's got a mountain running background. He was the first person to say to me, this is a significant hill. It's not just a little rise, it is a major one.
The team scorings: Italy leading with 12 points from France, who are packing really well. Belgium in 3rd, Germany 4th, Spain 5th. I think that was Great Britain and Northern Ireland 6th at the moment, although Emile Carrès, the British champion, the 24-year-old winner of the UK trials by 11 seconds, pretty comfortable win. He's beginning to move through. Ingebrigtsen, they're back now in 7th place. He has moved through just rather ominously almost.
He just seems to be doing enough to stay involved in the race. There was a big move up into this hill from Philemon Abraham of Germany, and he was formerly one of the world's top mountain runners. He was previously representing Eritrea, so I was just talking about mountain running. He must have heard me and gone, yes, you're right, I am a good mountain runner. I should be at home on this course. That's Vilmon Abraham of Germany, perhaps buoyed by those German exploits. We've also got Samuel Fitwi in there for Germany. They could have another good team opportunity here.
Isaac Kimeli is in part of that trio. They're just beginning to get a bit of a gap, and you can see, guess who's covering it? Ingebrigtsen into 4th place. He's such a smart racer. He thinks on his feet. He saw that gap developing, put in a bit of extra effort halfway up the hill, moved past 3 other bodies, and now he's just about to close up on that leading trio. Keres going well. He's up in about 9th place at the moment. But Cripper, oblivious to what's going on behind him. And I like this attitude from Cripper. Just throw the gauntlet down. Let him, if you can come with me, good luck to you. If you can't, well, you're going to get beaten.
Well, and it's an effort to be moving faster than everybody else. The energy you have to expend to close those gaps is significant. I mean, we know how good Jakob Ingebrigtsen is on the track, and that ability to have that leg speed and that power, it is going to help you up the hill. So it could literally be, he's just so strong, so fit. Those hills, it's almost like he's taking the handbrake off on up and down them. He's kind of saying, I'll put in a full effort, see if that moves me up the field, and it's catapulted him all the way to the lead. I was impressed with Jakob Ingebrigtsen in Lisbon. That was a tricky technical course. It was barely a flat part of it. He nearly came off the course in one of the downhills, and he complained afterwards he tweaked a glute, and it did impact the rest of his season. But he was certainly comfortable on these tricky uphill and downhill sections.
So, Ingebrigtsen moved to the front momentarily alongside Cripper. Cripper must have thought, oh boy, here we go. Because he's lost to Ingebrigtsen again and again. And he's trying to find, like the rest of the world, frankly, a way of unlocking the safe of consistency that Jakob Ingebrigtsen inhabits. He is a tough one to crack. Of course, Ingebrigtsen has reset middle distance running thinking in the last 3 to 4 years, because long gone are the days when 1500 metre races would be won like Centrowitz' victory in the Rio Olympics with a 50-second last lap. Nowadays, you've got to be able to just run 56, 56, 56 for your first 3 laps, and frankly, finishing with about a 56 is more than enough. That's the way Ingebrigtsen's done it, and other athletes are training for that, aren't they? They're adjusting their training to cope with that technique. So the days of Ovet and Cram and Co, where you'd run a 52, 53 last lap, and maybe run 332, 334 in the championships, are long gone. And I like it in a way. It's kind of created a kind of honesty to middle distance running. I guess it takes it's diluted the racing, the excitement of racing a little bit, but it makes it more honest.
It does, and it is really interesting to see the ebb and flow through the years, and the men's and the women's, every discipline, whether it's the longer endurance or the shorter ones, they are shaped by the superstars. Everyone's kind of thinking, scratching their heads, go, how am I going to cope with that? We saw Jake Whiteman go away and quite deliberately improve his endurance, and that did yield a gold medal. I'm wondering, Tim, when you look at Samuel Tefera beat Jakob Ingebrigtsen indoors, and then Jake beat him outdoors, how much belief does that give the rest of the male running community that he is beatable? Because you kind of tell yourself, you want to wake up and always think you've got a shot at beating someone. No one's invincible. But I wonder if some of these men might have believed that a little bit more just for this last season that went by.
I think the difference is too, though, that Ingebrigtsen is only 22. Jake's 28? Jake Whiteman, who beat him at the World Championships 1500 this year. He's the world record holder of 1500 indoors. He holds the European record for 5000 at 12:48. He's got such an astonishing range, such an astonishing armoury. Now, you would never have seen, with all due respect, Okram or Ovet up at the front of a European cross-country championships like this, and yet Ingebrigtsen spans that gulf between middle distance and long distance with consummate ease. It is quite astonishing what he's done in these last few years.
It really is. I thought one of the interesting things that popped out of some of the media just in the lead up to this was Ingebrigtsen just a throwaway comment saying, I hope it's not hilly.
As if he cares.
And someone asked Yamani Burhan Cripper about that at the press conference yesterday. It's very interesting when he's like, I hope it's not hilly, and you kind of think, well, you clearly haven't prepared as thoroughly as me, because I know it's very hilly, and it must be infuriating when someone doesn't even perhaps think it's important to do a course recce before they turn up the day before, and still think they can walk away with a gold medal.
Well, Emile Keres of Great Britain has moved into second place, the 24-year-old. I'm impressed with how steadily he's moved through after a nice, easy start. He's coached by Renato Canavat these days. He was coached by Alan Story. He paced the London Marathon back in October to about halfway. He's got good speed, 27.44 on the roads for 10,000, 27.34 on the track for 10,000 metres. Keres there, living up with Europe's elite and looking every bit as though he belongs there. Little glance over his shoulder there from Ingebrigtsen to see what's going on. You'll see that he's got plenty of company, Hannah. That's what, 8 away now, I think, in that lead group. Ingebrigtsen, though, calling the shots, and I wonder if he'll just lope round these next couple of laps and then turn the screw like he normally does, or if he'll want to go early.
I think he'll probably lope. I remember someone relaying a quote from George Gandy's fantastic quote saying, if you can out-sprint someone, why do it any earlier than the last 20 or 30 meters? Why make it more complicated than that? And yeah, maybe I'm a bit of a lazy sit and kicker when I was a racer, but I think Jakob Ingebrigtsen, now he's made this break, he's in this top 8, you kind of think he can win it anyway. Why make yourself a pacemaker for everybody else? We saw that a little bit in Oregon in the 1500 metres. He kind of put himself out there to be shot at, and he came on Rav, obviously an utterly different distance and nature of race here today in Italy, but I still think why put yourself out there to be shot at any earlier than you have to?
Well, 16.14, Emile Keres takes the lead just as they go through with 3 laps to go. Yes, 3 laps to go. Their last 3 laps have been 4:31, 4:26, 4:31. Really consistent running after that first small lap. So 3 big laps to run. Each lap is 1,440 metres. So they've got about 4.5 kilometres to go. And Keres here is leaning into this and working this. I'm sure he will have discussed this with his coach, Renato Canavat, one of the very, very smart, experienced old Italian coaches who has got a huge number of successes to his name. Keres here running with real confidence, Hannah, and this is a growing career here in the form of in Emile Keres. It's unfolding before our eyes.
This is a similar run to the British trials. Yeah, that was a different calibre of field, with all due respect. But Emile Keres, he did bide his time till halfway and then push on. Early look at the team standings. At the moment, France doing really well. They could hold on to the gold medal they got last year. But just a word on Isaac Kameli. We haven't said an awful lot about him. The Flemish athlete, he's just worked his way into this group and stuck in there. This is his 8th European cross-country championships. He was second behind Philip Ingebrigtsen in 2018. Picked up a silver behind Jakob Ingebrigtsen indoors last year as well. So in the indoors, yes, not at the cross-country, but Isaac Kameli having a nice quiet race. I kind of like that demeanour. It was much like Constanze Klosterhalfen in the women's race. She was just always there and thereabouts without expending too much energy. But if there's someone that's got a lot of experience in European cross-country, it is Isaac Kameli.
That yellow vest up in about 6 places, Fulman Abraham of Germany. You mentioned him, Hannah, the former Eritrean, is a great mountain runner, formerly one of Europe's top mountain runners. He's a 62-minute half marathon runner, 28.03 for 10,000. He's got pretty solid form on the track, but 14th in this race last year. Clearly in better shape this time round, as we see athletes negotiating one of the little climbs with varying levels of skill or competence. And as I say that, Abraham hits the front. Keres was in the lead. Oh, actually, it doesn't hit the front, excuse me. Hits the front of the chasing group. Keres there, right of picture. Goes up that without any trouble at all, and Ingebrigtsen moves into second place. I wonder if Jakob will now again just cover that gap and say to Keres, no, that's okay, you can have your moment in the sun, but I'm covering it.
I was just starting to think that they potentially weren't taking this move of Emile Keres as seriously as they should. And there's always I guess there's always a bias towards your home nation. You know, we, in Great Britain, we're excited about Emil Caresse. We feel like he's developing super well as an athlete. I was kind of looking at Jakob Ingebrigtsen and thinking if he doesn't know enough about Emil Caresse, he might not take that move seriously. But every time we've come downhill, Jakob Ingebrigtsen has looked a lot more comfortable and competent and relaxed than I think he should. You know, given the fact he's primarily a 1500 metre runner, he is just bouncing down this hill and closing up the gap on people. So it's almost like he's waiting every lap, saying, let's just see if I can do the downhill better than you, and that closes the gap with minimal effort.
Well, Ingebrigtsen, I think, has just closed a little bit that gap on Caresse yet, and Kimeli has been dragged with him. Isaac Kimeli, he's pretty useful at Kimeli. You look at his CV, he's done it all. And actually, talking about range, he's run 1:46 for 800, 27:22 for 10,000. That sort of thing was unheard of only a generation ago, 25 years ago. He was 10th in the World Championships 10,000 this summer, and he's been 7th and 9th in the last 2 European cross-country. So Kimeli has stepped up a notch. He's running really well, the Belgian in 3rd place. These three in a single file, a little gap behind them, back to Abraham. Going through a bad patch is Cripper at the moment, back in 6th place. Yeah,
Cripper did not look as comfortable up the hill the last time. 2 more long laps to go, and I want to say that's the best Cripper's looked in around about a circuit, but he's going to have to get some serious momentum to catapult himself up into the medals here. He'll be desperate to at least get a medal for that Italian men's team. I think Yamani Berhan Cripper has been pounding the trails out in Kenya, hoping for an individual medal, maybe individual gold. And he's just, you can see that screwing his eyes up there. Perhaps the sunlight, could be fatigue. And he's moving past Shrub, setting his sights on Abraham. Just 5th place at the moment for Yamani Berhan Cripper.
Yeah, Shrub and Augusto of France both giving good account of themselves. Cripper, you're right, has got his sights on those ahead of him, but at this late in a race, it is doubly hard to close gaps. When you're beginning to get tired, the 10-metre gap is not what it was early in the race. You know, early in the race, it's your choice whether to close the gap or not. Now, you may not have quite so much say in the matter. Caresse giving everything with that sort of head-bobbing style of his. It's almost a little Paula Radcliffe going on there with the head wobbling forwards, backwards and forwards. Ingebrigtsen to the right of picture, you have to say, is just a picture of calm and serenity, isn't he? He's such a big fella too. Look at the legs of Ingebrigtsen compared with Caresse.
And I think Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he tried to overtake Emil Caresse when they came through that lap counter with 2 laps to go. It wasn't a serious move, but it felt like he was just trying to kind of say, you know, I'm still here. Emil Caresse then moved himself back into the lead. This time it is at the base of the hill for the first time, really. This is the first time we've seen Jakob Ingebrigtsen, I think, leading up a hill. I'm not sure he's quite led up it yet. He's looked very comfortable every single time. And this is the penultimate time up this hill. And Jakob Ingebrigtsen trying to figure out what his competitors have got in their legs at the moment. They're all working hard. Isaac Kimeli has just covered everything Jakob Ingebrigtsen's done.
Well, I think Kimeli has done everything right so far. He's just tucked in there. I don't think he's hit the front himself yet, and for any period of time, really. Abraham goes through in 4th place, and then Shrub and Cripper, and then Augusto, and another of the Italians going through there, I think Zach Chiapinelli, back in about 8th place. But Ingebrigtsen, well, guess what? A lap and a half to go, and Ingebrigtsen is at the front for the first time of any significance. Leans into that slope. They just flow up that hill so competently, such power. They all do, all these top fellas. These are great runners. They're actually lapping athletes now. And Ingebrigtsen into the Alamandria Castello for the penultimate time. Abraham and Cripper together, along with Augusto, or Shrub rather, excuse me.
And I was just thinking to myself, Yamani Berhan Cripper, he done well to close up the gap on Philemon Abraham, and I just wanted him to look up and realise that the German athlete was potentially slowing ever so slightly. And as we came through that flat section, it was Cripper with all his mountain running experience. You've got to run off the top of that mountain as well. You don't take the break up there in the inside section. You take the break down here on the flat fields where we are in front of the start-finish area. You've got to commit over that top of the hill and into this downhill section. If Cripper wants an individual medal, he's in 5th place at the moment. He took the gold in the 10,000 metres in Munich. If he wants to be on that podium today, he's got to go now. He's got just one long lap left to try and get on terms with this leading trio.
Ingebrigtsen there, coming down onto the flat field section for the penultimate time. And a little glance over his shoulder, and he will see what he wanted to see, that he's got separation now. The three of them out in front, with Abraham and Cripper, and then Schrubb and Augusto for France going through behind. But Jakob Ingebrigtsen, I can only assume, is feeling comfortable at the front now, and it's a matter of when he chooses to just lengthen that stride imperceptibly. He does it on the track. So often on the track you see Ingebrigtsen, and it's almost impossible to discern when he puts the acceleration in, but he just lengthens his stride. He's got a slight forward lean anyway, Hannah, and he just leans into it a little bit more, lengthens the stride, applies a bit more power, almost like just gradually pressing an accelerator very, very slowly, and he eases away from opposition. We've seen it again and again and again. He's the defending champion, and he goes out now on this final lap, 25:13 on the clock. Two athletes with him, a couple of others a few metres further back. But is the writing on the wall, or are we in for the shock of the day?
I was thinking there's no way Isaac Kameli and Emil Caress think they can outkick Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Don't care how strong they think they are, how much of a cross-country strength kick they can. I hope maybe they'll prove me wrong. So I think Emil Caress and Isaac Kameli, they have to make a move now. If they don't make a move now, that's what would tell me that Jakob Ingebrigtsen's raised his pace. If he started that sort of imperceptible squeeze that we see him do, I think if Emil Caress and Isaac Kameli don't try and get past him, then that slow, deadly kick has started.
Well, these two, Kameli there in the colours of Belgium and Caress for Great Britain in 3rd place, they have got now to prepare themselves psychologically for what's coming at them, and that will be a wind-up from Ingebrigtsen in his traditional Ingebrigtsen Norwegian style. He'll just turn the screw. Cripper, back in 4th place, is on a bit of a charge. I just sense that Cripper is sniffing a medal here. He's got that strength of a sub-60-minute half marathon. We know he enjoys the hills. He's been training in Kenya. He's in great shape, and that's not a big gap. It's 3 or 4 seconds to this leading trio. Cripper can close that over this final lap. Of the leading trio, Hannah, I would say there's only one person who will definitely get a medal, and that's Ingebrigtsen. But either Kameli or Caress could be under threat here from Cripper.
It could be. Cripper does have that mountain running background. I've been really impressed with the descent every time from Philemon Abraham. I think he could elevate himself a position or two if he can just navigate this uphill and downhill. Cripper's really got to go now if he's going to stand any chance of making it individually on a podium in front of the home crowd here in Italy. I just thought Emil Caress was going to falter, and he's rallied ever so slightly. Ingebrigtsen is not pulling away from Kameli and Caress.
No pull away from Ingebrigtsen yet as they negotiate this hill for the final time. Abraham and Cripper in 4th and 5th, and Abraham has gone past Cripper. That would suggest that the surge from Cripper has maybe faltered as Ingebrigtsen has a little glance over his shoulder, and there it is, that pitter-patter style of Ingebrigtsen on this upslope. There's an acceleration there. It's very tough to recognise other than the fact that he's opening up a gap, and there he leans into that last climb and pulls away from Kameli another couple of metres, and this is it. There it is, the Ingebrigtsen gap, we should call it, because he goes through, and the gap all of a sudden, it's so bizarre. It's like an optical illusion. In the space of 20 seconds, it goes from 2 metres to 20. Ingebrigtsen has gone. Now the battle is for the minor medals. Kameli of Belgium, Caress of Great Britain, out into the sunshine for the Olympic champion at 1500, the world champion at 5,000 metres. And Jakob Ingebrigtsen, surely, barring disaster in this next 200 or 300 metres downhill, is heading for a safe retaining of his gold from Dublin last year. A little glance over his shoulder there, and it's yet another gold on the way.
And Jakob Ingebrigtsen's got time to encourage the crowd to cheer him on. This will be his 9th European gold medal, his 6th successive gold medal at this European cross-country championships. He is number 1. He does have time to celebrate and wave at the crowd, and he deserves it. This hasn't been an easy race. The winning margin will be quite definitive in the end, but Jakob Ingebrigtsen has had a race on his hands today.
Well, we thought he had a race in his hands today, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, but ultimately the result is the same as ever. Isolation into the home straight for Jakob Ingebrigtsen. A finger held aloft. Yes, you are number one, sir. You have retained your title. It's going to be gold again at these European Athletics cross-country championships for Jakob Ingebrigtsen. A comfortable victory. He has eased away to about a 10 or 12 second victory from Emil Caress, who comes home for a brilliant silver for Great Britain. 29.33 for Ingebrigtsen. 9 seconds the gap back to Caress. And a bronze medal there for Kameli.